Hello everyone, Storm here, and today I just want to thank you all for such a great year on the channel. It's really been so awesome to see how far this channel has come since its inception. Now, in terms of plans for next year, it's gonna be a pretty big year, I hope. So be sure to check out the major channel update video. It still applies for the most part for next year, and I want to bring a lot of new stuff to the table for you guys. But to celebrate the holidays and also the year, I'm going to go ahead and end this year off with the final video being a Q&A type. So I'll be answering your guys' comments on some videos. I'll be replying to comments that I see frequently. I also did a Q&A post a while ago for you guys to submit your own comments. And now my hope would be for this to be a yearly thing, like kind of just end off the year recap. And I initially wanted this to just be a ginormous video covering all the comments on all my series and really just addressing a lot of questions and replying to mistakes I might have made, clearing those up, all that kind of stuff. But it would just be a massive video. So instead, I'm just going to be doing the general comments like I told you guys about before, and I'm going to decide to make a new kind of series on the channel going forward next year where I cover kind of like an after show of every what if. So yeah, definitely be sure to leave any comments on this video about other series, but I feel like I've addressed a lot of future stuff, so I actually want to go ahead and get into the Q&A type deal now. So we're first going to start off with some comments that I get very frequently and just like certain genres of comments and kind of discussing those. So we'll start with fans asking for what ifs about characters that don't exist or barely exist. I get some comments asking for like, what if Sandra survived, which is Clementine's babysitter, or what if there was another kid at the start of the Telltale series, like maybe Clem as a brother or Lee as a son, or what if X character who had one brief appearance survived. And I love the thought of writing new or tiny characters into a story and making them bigger than what they were previously, but I don't really think that's my thing on this channel. I want to take characters that already exist in some decent capacity and continue the story with them. This is why I haven't done a video on Sandra or Clementine's parents surviving. They'd protect Clem, but I don't really know their beliefs, how they respond to trauma, violence, if they get angry easily, or even really any general details about them. There's some things that we get through dialogue, but these characters would likely be cannon fodder with how little we know of them. And it feels kind of inauthentic for me to make a video about a character we don't know and tell you this is how this character would react to everything. Now this goes double for adding a brand new character. Giving Clem a brother or Lee a son doesn't do much for me since that character will be made entirely from scratch and everyone will have a take on what that character would be. And in my what ifs, I prefer to keep things realistic. I take a character, keep them alive, and tell you how I think the story would go. If I wrote my own character in, I'd have to do far more work only to have a result I'm not super thrilled with. Though, I am okay with having characters be made through my what ifs. So like Omid Jr. being born is a direct result of the what if, and so I kind of have to give him some sort of character. Or for instance, Gil in What If Carter Found Clementine, I was able to give him a pretty prominent role. Though it still wasn't super fleshed out, I didn't spend a ton of time on him. But yeah, if minor characters were to be created or survive in my what ifs as a result of the what if, I would have to write that character in, and I think that's more rewarding in a way. I kind of get my own freedom with the character that I earned by having the what if create them in a way. So yeah, that's my thoughts on that. I probably won't ever do what if Clem had a brother or what if Lee had a son, and I likely won't end up doing what if Clementine's parents survived unless it's like a super broad, like short what if. Alright, so number 2. Ever since I first made What If Kenny and Lily Swapped Places, I've gotten swarmed with comments about other characters swapping, but here's the issue. Lily and Kenny swapping was a very real and physical possibility, and it had almost nothing to do with their personalities or actions. I thought Lily returned in season 4, Kenny did in season 2, why not swap their returns? The comments I get about other characters swapping don't really make much sense to me. If Lee and Kenny swapped, what? Kenny finds Clementine somehow and Lee runs into Kenny's family after crashing. I don't really see the point there. Or Lily and Carly swapping, so Lily has a crush on Lee and Carly shoots Ben. But then they're not really swapping physical or even choice-based spots. That's just Carly and Lily taking the other's personality and decisions. I'm not really interested in that. It would mostly just be the same outcome, I feel like. And since I'm shooting down those ideas, I wanted to give another example of a good variation on this. I have considered doing like what if Javi and David swapped, since David trusted Javi to go with his wife and kids at the start of the apocalypse, while he went to the hospital with their mom. But that's a physical swap that could have reasonably occurred in the story. Now, another good variation that I want to do is what if Rick Grimes and Lee Everett swapped? Because it would be awesome to see Rick finding Clem and going through the events of the games without finding his family, and seeing how his character would be shaped by that, comparing his choices and conflicts from the show to what he'd do in Lee's place. This also has us picking a more definitive Lee to go forward in the show story and see what would be the most interesting. This would obviously be two separate what ifs that tell two halves of the same story, and I would use the show version since I know way more about that and I like it way more, even though the comics are canon to the game. There aren't many crossovers between the game and the comic, there's only a few, so I'm not too worried about breaking the canon. You could easily have the show's version of Jesus helping out in A New Frontier after the Savior War. Now, this one obviously isn't a perfectly rational physical swap between them, but I feel like it's a concept swap that kind of works really well. Like, it's really just what if Rick was in the game and what if Lee was in the show. Alright, number 3. What if everyone survived? This is a suggestion I get very often, mostly about the Season 1 Telltale characters. They want the cop, Sean, Carly, Doug, Larry, Mark, Katja, Duck, Bree, Ben, Lee, everyone to survive. And that is just a bad suggestion to me. The story will likely not be good because A, you'd have to have at least a dozen characters to juggle at this point in just Season 1 alone. B, it makes the group feel far too powerful and makes the story boring. Like when Mark gets taken, I guess the cannibals just treat him, so they're actually not cannibals, I guess, or at least they're not evil. Lily just never gets mad at Carly or Ben. Larry's heart condition never matters again after episode 1, and with that many characters going into the later seasons, most villains or fights would be a cakewalk. You guys have seen how many times 1 or 2 characters can make things too easy from all my what ifs. And if you've seen What If Javier Survived, you'll know that a huge group gets boring, especially after season 2. Now C, I'm not sure whether this entails every character surviving only past their original death, or they want infinite plot armor. Both are negative though, as I already described how infinite plot armor makes the story boring and hard to manage, and killing a character in a what if about them surviving usually gets backlash. Maybe one day I'll do this topic, but it'll likely be a version of every character surviving their original death and probably dying realistically soon after. And it won't be for a long time. Alright, number 4 is, this is another big broad comment, I think this is the last one. Someone should make this a mod, or they should make this a DLC, or you should make this a game. I'm not sure if changing the entire story could be classified as a mod. When I hear mod, I usually think of like reskins or added voice lines or features. As for DLC, I don't think Telltale is ever making a DLC for what if scenarios, and if they did, it's not the best situation for me. My videos are supposed to be realistic versions of what I think would happen, so either they make the same story as me, which would be kind of lame, or they make a more fanfiction version. Plus, I think The Walking Dead Destinies totally killed off any future official what if content for this franchise. Should be a video on that in February, I think. Oh, also, I don't know how to code or do any of that stuff, so I definitely won't be making a game or a mod or anything like that. Alright, so now we're getting into more of the actual questions or like specific comments I wanted to point out. So number 5, someone said, finally a halal YouTuber, I didn't know you were Muslim. So here's the thing, I think the editor of that video is Muslim and added the wallahi I'm finished, but I am not Muslim. I actually don't have a religion and I apologize for the confusion there. Hopefully I didn't get your hopes up. Number 6, so there are some people who watch my videos but don't play or watch The Walking Dead, and I really appreciate the support, but you are kind of ruining an amazing story for yourself. And I usually skip over a lot of what remains the same in these videos, so you aren't even getting a full telling of my story without knowing the original. So like, I appreciate it, but at the same time, you're not even really enjoying my story to the full capacity that you could be. That doesn't matter to me as much as you actually seeing or playing The Walking Dead. That matters way more to me. Whenever I eventually cover Breaking Bad next year, I really hope that my videos spoiling the entire series and franchise are not going to be your guys' first entrance. I hope you check that out first before you watch them. I highly recommend watching the shows and playing the games before watching my content on them, as always. Number 7, what other things do you like other than The Walking Dead? Well, I like Breaking Bad, which will be getting some content on next year, like I said. I like Transformers, or at least the movies and the shows. I'm not a very OG fan. I like Dragon Ball and Total Drama, which are both covered on my other channel, which is currently kind of abandoned because I'm a little too swamped to focus on 2 channels right now, and I choose this one. But maybe I'll get back to it one day. I like Spider-Man, Batman, and all of Marvel and DC stuff. Though, again, mostly the movies and the shows, along with the games. I like Cowboy Bebop. I'm a very light fan of Yu-Gi-Oh! And Pokemon. I like Days Gone, The Last of Us, Slay the Spire, Slay the Princess, Undertale, Mortal Kombat, kind of. And I'm getting into the Saw franchise. I'm kind of cooked because I don't really like that much stuff, and I want to get into more new stuff, but it's kind of hard for me. Also, all the big franchises I like to talk about are kind of dying. Total Drama got 2 seasons after like 10 years, and now it's back to silence. Dragon Ball has only had monthly manga chapters that aren't that good, and a mid-movie release. Now they've got a new show that I still haven't watched yet because I'm just not that hyped. And the Walking Dead Telltale series has been over for a long time, with the exception of the Clementine books. And no, I'm not going to talk about them or form an opinion until they are fully finished. And yes, I will be considering them canon and discussing their events in my What If series. Other Walking Dead games are busts, and the main show and main spin-off are now over, with Daryl and Dead City being subpar so far. Breaking Bad is a new franchise I'm going to be covering, but it and its spin-off series are also finished and likely won't have any new stuff coming out. So yeah, like I said, I'm kind of cooked. All my favorite franchises are kind of dead. Number 8. How do you decide what a character will do in a given situation? So this is kind of a broad question, but I'll do my best to answer. Some of these situations are easy. For instance, if Rick Grimes or Clementine came across a random little girl, they probably won't try to bash her skull in or leave them to die. But sometimes the situation and the characters are a little more challenging to work with. Figuring out how Dale or Omid would react to season 4 of their respective stories is a bit harder. There are times when you have to really dig deep into a character's scenes and story, and write down their specific beliefs, try to feel out what they think of the situation because of that. You also have to keep in mind where the character is at. Omid isn't the same guy as when he dies in Season 2, Episode 1, as he is when he makes it to Season 4 in My What If. You have to work on a character's morality and how they would change as the story progresses. Hopefully this makes sense. I try to explain a lot of characters' reasonings and journey in the videos if they need explanations too. So that way you guys can kind of understand the thought process there and can follow along easily with their story. Number 9, when did you first start playing Telltale's The Walking Dead? It was shortly after the whole first season was released. I liked watching The Walking Dead with my parents, and my mom got the game because it had Glenn in it, so then I started playing it. Number 10, what made you start doing What Ifs? So, believe it or not, I actually liked watching Masako X, Broku72, Quaman, who all made videos about Dragon Ball. That was just Dragon Ball What Ifs. I made a lot of videos about Dragon Ball on my other channel, which I mentioned, and then I decided to expand to The Walking Dead on this channel. Number 11, why do you hate Alden? I love this question. It came from What If Shane Killed Rick, where I stated I don't like Alden at all, I think twice. I just don't. He started off in Season 8 as the good savior, basically making Maggie and our group doubt what they're doing, and pushing for a more peaceful resolution to the conflict. He represented a more hopeful, pragmatic outlook on the war in the future. Now, given that he was on the wrong side of the war and proved himself to the group enough to be one of their main guys at any given point, you'd think he'd be pretty accepting of others that they eventually take in. But no, this guy is rude as hell to Lydia, a child. He's just downright awful to Mary, not even letting her see her own nephew because he wants him all to himself. You literally have her family, my guy. The baby her sister practically died out of grief for. He had a kind of odd but okay relationship with Enid that really went nowhere. He had a cool bond with Luke that went nowhere. Him teaching Henry how to be a blacksmith doesn't even matter because Henry dies before he can ever use that knowledge. He dies in the most lame way imaginable. He gets injured and is like, leave me behind. And then they do. And then 5 or 6 episodes later, they go back and see he's dead. Like, yeah, you left him to bleed out for days. Why do we need to reveal this way later? I'll tell you why. It's because the Reaper arc sucks and doesn't have any deaths that matter. Alden was the only character in that arc of any relevance thus far that wasn't guaranteed a spinoff or was around so long that they just couldn't kill their happy ending. Alden gets the most screen time out of any of the saviors after the war, aside from like Dwight, Sherry, and of course Negan. He gets more than Laura and more than DJ, both of which hardly existed. DJ is just a silent dude taking characters from place to place, and Laura is the character they make say stupid stuff for our main characters to look smart by correcting them. Both of them die unceremoniously, and Alden did too, but they tried to make his a big deal. Alden is also just always there. Like, he's never really important, but he's always saying or doing something preventing other more deserving characters from getting screen time. Oh, and he has a clear shot on Beta, but instead kills the walker of Mary. Why? It's not like he missed Beta, he just specifically shot Mary's walker. You're not redeeming your terrible treatment of her because you took out her zombified corpse. Why would you not try and shoot and damage the man who murdered her that no one could seem to kill? Wouldn't that be more honorable? But yeah, also I don't like his voice, it's just so raspy, and I don't know if the actor actually speaks like that, but no hate to him from any of this. I just don't like the character. Alright, number 12. So some people are wondering what exactly happened with some of the videos on this channel being removed, and that's because those videos had my old channel partner and editor in them. And I have since parted ways with that person. To explain the entire scenario is either to do a disservice to myself by not detailing everything, or to make an extremely long video of it, so I don't want to do either. I said that I wouldn't draw attention to this unless I need to, and I won't, because I don't. I did host a livestream addressing the end issues in detail, and that got about 1,000 views. If they want to share what they heard from that stream, they are free to do so. But essentially, there were lots of personal issues, and I decided to cut this person out of the channel because of it. Thus, all of their videos are removed. I'm going to work on writing my own version of the what ifs that were on this channel to give you guys those stories in some form. It also helps that I did work on a lot of them myself, and I'm just a better writer than I used to be. So yeah, expect those series to be created, probably a little bit different, but we did work on them together, and I will likely end up agreeing with a lot of the originals. Number 13, last question is quite fitting for the channel. Would you survive the zombie apocalypse, and why? Now, I would love to say that I would, but the truth is that I wear glasses, and should I lose them, or my eyes get worse and my glasses no longer help, I'm kinda cooked. I don't have any skills that any of even the useless characters in The Walking Dead have. I can't pick locks or make bullets like Eugene, I can't fight like Jesus or Molly, I don't know how to treat wounds, hunt, use weapons, etc. I'm sure a large portion of us imagine ourselves being able to learn these things if we absolutely had to, but that's just not super realistic. The characters in The Walking Dead have heaps of plot armor at times and superhuman endurance in tandem with their various abilities that usually come with their backstories. And remember that the zombies in The Walking Dead are not even that bad compared to other franchises. And our favorite characters still need that level of buffing to survive. But to not be all down on myself, I do think I have really good morale and I can read people pretty well. I'm pretty smart as well, if I do say so myself, and I do have experience leading. Plus, I believe in democracy and having high moral character. So, maybe I'm doomed to die, because some of you guys probably don't value that much. But in a group of survivors, those things would make me able to thrive, and I think I could make decisions that would ensure my and my allies' survival. Not to mention I'm quite well versed in zombie media, which none of the other characters in these universes ever know about at the start. But okay, this is kinda cringy to just hype myself up like this, so remember what I said at first. I think in The Walking Dead I could probably survive for a while, but I won't say I'll live till season 11 or whatever. But yeah, that is the end of this Q&A for the year. I really appreciate all of your guys' support. It means a lot. We've had a lot of big changes and all that kind of stuff going on this year. A lot has happened to me, but overall I'm super proud of where we are now, and I hope that next year is going to be pretty good, and I think it will be. But yeah, get excited, more content coming next year. Happy holidays, of course. But as always, tell me if you like this video, comment your requests for future videos, and subscribe. Thanks for watching. See you next year.